This episode's brought to you by Affordable Drill Towers. Founded in 2016 by our good friend Steve Sanguidoce, a retired Houston, Texas firefighter, the Affordable Drill Tower was designed and built with functionality and versatility in mind for any training ground. As a standalone training tower or an add-on to an existing burn building or Connex setup, the Affordable Drill Tower packs a massive punch at an affordable price tag. With over 50 towers across the country, from Massachusetts to California, Montana to Texas, professionally engineered, NFPA and ISO compliant, the Affordable Drill Towers brings the versatility to your training ground. From Main Street USA, the small town fire company in their back parking lot, to the training grounds of the largest metropolitan fire academy, the Affordable Drill Tower fits the bill for price and functionality. Check them out at affordabledrilltowers.com. And two things I like to talk about also when talking about our friends over at Affordable Drill Towers. One, their customized training program. They have the ability to bring some of the best talent from across the country to your home turf after the install of the Affordable Drill Tower. Designing a customized training program for you and your department, Steve will facilitate some of the biggest and brightest names of the American Fire Service to come in and work with you and your department. And secondly, and I think most important, is Steve's belief in need over greed. The Affordable Drill Tower company gives back to not-for-profits that support organizations in the American Fire Service. Organizations such as the Joey D Foundation, which is near and dear to Steve Sanguidoce's heart, as well as many other not-for-profits that he takes a part of. He takes great pride in providing funding for organizations that push this job forward. So check them out, Steve and Dennis over at Affordable Drill Towers. Send them an email at info@affordabledrilltowers.com. Check them out on social media, and their YouTube page is kicking butt with great information, training nuggets, and information about their towers. So check them out, Affordable Drill Towers, and let them know Jeremy over at National Fire Radio sent you. This episode's brought to you by Ridgeway Leatherworks. Ridgeway Leatherworks is a firefighter-owned and operated business, as well as a family-run business, and that's what I love about it. Rob and his family are passionate about their customer service and the quality product and craftsmanship they put out for the emergency services. Rob's been on the show. We've been to his business. We've seen them in action. I've even tried to hand paint radio straps. I promise you, it is not as easy as what the final outcome looks like. The product is so good and so clean and crisp, and yet, man, it takes that steady hand. Rob's become a near and dear friend of our podcast, and you hear that over and over when we talk about our sponsors, that they're friends, supporters, and that's what this networking community is all about, is supporting one another. Ridgeway Leatherworks, Rob Meyer, crushing it. Quality and craftsmanship is number one. Customer service is right there with it. From custom radio straps, universal radio holsters, chin straps, flashlight holders, anti-sway straps, and locker tags made out of leather, there's plenty of opportunity along the way when you deal with Ridgeway Leatherworks. So check them out at ridgewayleatherworks.com. Find them on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And tell Rob you heard about him on the National Fire Radio platform, and give him a little plug and tell him keep up the good work. We need to support our firefighter-owned businesses, and especially family-run businesses, where his two daughters and his wife help out day in and day out along with his other employees. So again, Ridgeway Leatherworks, check them out at ridgewayleatherworks.com and find them on all your social media channels.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode 29 of the Size Up by National Fire Radio. I really got to work on this entry because I was doing some editing and I'm like, what's up? What's up? I guess that's my opening, and my guest is just laughing at me because I'm like scared to do this. This is my first, like, I'm afraid episode because I feel like this guy, he's got 119 or 120 podcasts under his belt. And a few of them have I've been the guest on. So yeah, it's him interviewing me. Look, he doesn't even want to wait. He just wants to talk. So Brian Solar, Chief Solar, Assistant Chief Solar, Brian, you, the Professional Brotherhood, my guest today and my good friend. What's up, buddy? How are you?
All right, we're going to start off by you are finally going to say my name correctly. That's
Have
how
I been saying it wrong?
That's how we're going to start it off. It's Solar.
Solar.
Yes,
oh my
Solar.
God.
No solar. It's not the solar system. It's not solar power. All right, it's solid.
So
That's
so
all right. I
wait,
usually
wait, wait, wait.
ignore it. I always ignore it. All right, but I figure you're doing this great intro. Let's get it right today,
So
right?
how is it? I'm gonna say it again.
Solar,
Solar. So this
solar.
is so sad, right? Because normally in my whopping 29 episodes here,
Yep.
I'll be like, your last name, it's pronounced Solar, right?
Sure. Right.
And
Right. No,
right,
I
that's what
know.
I do with my guests all the
Yeah, I
time.
know.
People I've
Listen,
known for years. I skipped it today because I'm like,
I'm
let's
gonna
just
make you
fucking
feel I'm
podcast.
gonna make you feel good about yourself, because normally what happens is people ask me, hey, how do you pronounce your name? Do I have it right? And I correct them. And then as soon as they hit the record button or they go live on whatever it is, they say it wrong anyway. So it's all good. No
Because in
worries.
my head, it's still Solar.
I've been dealing with it for 53 years. I'm good.
Oh my God. So this is the fun part of podcasting, right? When you have some friends that you get to come on the show, and
Yeah.
and you and I have known each other now for, I couldn't even tell you when we met along this journey or how we met.
Right. Right.
But it's been fun. And it's weird too when people are like, wait, you know him? And I'm like, well, I do. We talk a lot about different things. We bounce different things off of
Mhm.
each other. And I don't think when people are looking at social media pages or whatever, they realize how many of us are actually personal friends.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. People just, I think they kind of assume that, everybody is a Facebook friend or an Instagram friend or whatever. You don't actually ever like really pick up the phone and talk or send a text message or something. And I mean, obviously a large majority of the people we interact with, it is just that, but some of us do actually get to know one another over the years.
You go a little deeper than just that, like, Facebook post
Right,
that
right,
you
right.
see there or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
It's funny too because it's not everybody. Like, then I say things like this, and people are like, "Oh, then you're friendly with all the people you deal with," and I'm like, "Oh no, some are just a message here or there."
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
But you find these different connections, and I think that's something that you and I kind of found, and it goes to what you preach in the professional brotherhood,
Mm.
because we talk about that professionalism when we may see something online that has occurred and we're
Yeah, yeah.
talking to each other about it instead of bashing
Sure.
the people online that may have
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
may not have
absolutely.
done it right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, and that's the way it should be, right? It's, sometimes you want to take the conversation a little bit further because you realize you see things that you're like, oh, they make you cringe. But, at the same point, you don't want to go on and publicly bash somebody. I actually was just teaching last week, and the uh one of the scenes from Down Your Way came up while I was
Of course,
teaching.
of course.
And I said, listen, bad people, bad guys, no, I'm sure they're all great guys. I'm like, maybe need a little bit more training, maybe got themselves in a situation that was kind of a little beyond their normal skill set. Probably doesn't make them bad guys, doesn't mean we can't learn from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So but those are the conversations you kind of want to have to the side or in a private setting, not a back and forth on whatever platform you choose to use.
wherever you want to type about it. It's
Right,
that
right.
learning experience, and I think that's a huge part of, again, professionalism. And I feel like that's going to be our constant theme today because
Mhm.
that's what you've based your platform off of since day
Yeah,
one. It's just being a professional.
yeah,
And look, I'm not going to say that I haven't made some jokes privately or to some friends about situations like that too, because that's what it is. But it's when you
sure.
go public with it. And to me, it's even crazier to know that there are folks out there that are creating fake profiles, or like they're that I'm just going to make this profile so I can go and bash people for whatever I truly feel, as opposed to not doing it themselves.
Sure, sure. Well, listen, I've talked about this over the years. I talk about it in the opening of our seminar that we do. That's kind of what got me on this journey was the profiles that were dedicated to really nothing but bashing more volunteers than the
Yeah.
career side, but we're just pretty much dedicated to bashing volunteers. And I'm honest about it when I say that, hey, we're giving them that content to use, right? People are actually out there doing this stupid crap, right? So they're not staging the content that they're using, but this is not us, right? This doesn't represent us, right? There's plenty of volunteer firefighters out there that take this job very seriously, and you know, we can't allow ourselves to be defined by these ridiculous situations and by these profiles that nobody even knows who the brains are behind the operation, right? But their sole goal is to just go on there and make us all look like a bunch of boobs, you know?
And then just and again, it adds to that, like you said, we're providing them with
Right.
the fuel to do this. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to take that own responsibility back to ourselves. You know,
Sure.
it's the same. And you and I talk about this a lot because again, I'm on the career side and you're on the
Mhm.
volunteer side.
Yeah.
And we do just as many things that can be seen that way as well. And get put out there that way. And it's that you always have to, I don't want to say you always have to be on guard, but you always have to be prepared for what someone may be seeing and how they may be
Sure.
perceiving it from what you're putting out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Look, there's lazy undertrained slugs in the volunteer service, and there's lazy undertrained slugs in the career service. I don't, you know, and if anybody wants to argue that point, like, I'm sure the both of us will argue it all day long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
It's life, right? This is
that's
life.
yeah, that's life. It's the same at my day job, right? There's people that are go-getters and want to go and are always striving for the next thing, and then there's people that are happy to get a paycheck every Friday and go home, you know?
And that's it too. Like just because you work in the emergency services field or you volunteer in the emergency services field, it doesn't change you. You know,
Right.
in every field, there's bad doctors, there's
Sure.
bad people that check you out at the grocery store. There's
Yeah.
bad, right? There's bad,
Yeah.
like, you can be a lazy slug in everything you do.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
it's
100%.
it's trying to hold yourself accountable, I think, is what that really comes back down to. And I think again, that's something that you're out there trying to per se, or
Right.
not per se, good luck, push out there to everyone. But
Sure.
you know, a lot of my listeners here for the Size Up aren't involved in emergency services because we
Mhm.
kind of cross over into that lifestyle. And
Yeah.
I know even for me, you know, I did start out as a volunteer. When there's so many different types of volunteer firefighters or emergency providers across the United States, you know, and you're kind of more of an expert on that field than I am, I guess is a good way to put it. But can you just kind of explain the different levels of maybe like paid on call, 100% volunteer, like any way to break it down for folks that may not know?
Yeah, so there's lots of different systems out there now, and I'm not even really familiar with many of them, you know. You know, here around me in my part of the world in New York, and most of what I deal with out when I'm teaching, it's the line's pretty drawn. It's either, you know, it's either you're on the career side, or you're 100% volunteer. Now, some of us, you know, are fortunate enough to have retirement programs. Some states have different types of retirement programs. Like I know in Jersey, they do, a lot of departments do like these stipend programs where they're quarterly instead of, you know, at the end of your life cycle when you're ready to retire. Um, you know, there are systems out there that are paid on call, where I think we do have a couple departments in our area that have hired, and some people are probably going to cringe at this, I'm sure, but that have hired people to work in the fire station as
A janitor,
maintenance people,
maintenance.
janitors, whatever they call them. And then when the tones drop, they clock out and they become a volunteer. Um, I get the argument to that. It's like kind of making somebody a career guy, but not, you know, like you know
It's
what I
yeah,
mean?
it
Yeah, it's
definitely
like
it harkens to you're keeping a lot of I guess benefits from
yeah,
them maybe
yeah,
like
exactly. So, but there are those systems out there. You know, again, there's the paid on calls, there's the paid per calls. You know, where they get a certain small monetary amount per run that they go on. Um,
you know
that's the
it's hard too when you look at the volunteer service in anything we do.
Mhm.
Volunteerism itself is down. You
Yeah,
know, when it comes to being, I mean, there's any number of Facebook posts, come be a baseball coach for the little league,
Sure.
like, or come, do this, or can you volunteer? My kid's in his play tonight. Like, they need volunteers to sell tickets. It takes 20 minutes before the show, 2 nights. And
Yeah.
I didn't volunteer to do that.
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
just how our time works,
Yeah.
and how society sees us. And when you look at on an emergency services end, we talk about tradition all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, in the 30s and 40s and 50s, volunteering was something you did because you worked in the town that you lived in,
Sure.
and there was a very minimal call volume. Granted, every call was probably a fire at that point.
Right. 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 Right.
Now we fast forward to today's society, which we all know is different. So it's hard to really attract them. And you see people trying to do creative things within the volunteer service, but you have to start to question yourself when that's not going to work anymore, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, life has absolutely changed. I mean, look, I look at my upbringing compared to my life right now. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She was able to do that, right? My dad was a hard worker, but my mother was always home, and I knew lots of friends of mine whose mothers were always home and their dad was out working, right? How many people in your social circle do you know where somebody's a stay-at-home, whether it's a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom, right? Where somebody's a stay-at-home, right?
Very few.
I don't
Very
know
few,
any,
if
right?
any.
I can't think of, I off the top of my head, I can't think of any. And the norm is more mom works, dad works, and one of them might also have a side hustle, right? So they're doing 2 jobs or 3 jobs. Or so now you try to factor in volunteering, right, which is a job, whether you want to admit that or not, and the commitment that comes along with volunteering. It can be very difficult, and that's one of the tough things to overcome in the recruitment world, right?
For sure.
Is getting people the training that they need to have in order to do this job within their working it into their life schedule, right, can be a real challenge.
And that mentality is so hard too, because you see it in the volunteer ranks, especially I know near where I am. Your volunteers are either super young
Mm-hmm.
or super old.
Right.
And I'm not even so sure the super old is going to be a thing in the next 10 or 20 years, because that middle range,
Mm-hmm.
like when I was volunteering and I was 19 and 20 years old, all I was
Mm-hmm.
doing was working EMS, playing video games,
Sure.
partying, volunteering, and trying to get on the job. Those were
Yeah.
really easy. Had you in my life now, where I have Finn and Declan and the dog and a house and a pool
Mm-hmm.
that keeps turning green and this side hustle and, Tracy working 4 days a week type things,
Sure. Yeah.
the time is just not there. I mean, I could probably run to the volunteer firehouse in my town faster than some of the folks that volunteer there.
Yeah.
Drive
Yeah.
there is an
Yeah.
easy way to do it. But
Yeah.
honestly, I just don't have the time to commit to say, hey, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Um,
Because
and
you're the type of person that wants to do it, right? You're not going to go down there and be like, "Hey guys, I want to volunteer," and then they're like, "Hey, where the hell's Pip? Anybody seen Pip?" Like you don't come back for a month and a half or
you
whatever,
still have those guys. Those guys still
Yeah,
exist.
yeah. Those guys still
With the
exist.
sticker,
Yeah.
they put the sticker on their car
Yeah,
and you can
oh
see them
yeah, the
again.
sticker, the T-shirt, the license plate, like the whole 9 yards. More lights than Christmas Vacation, But
20 years ago, those guys were around in the
yeah,
volunteers. I can't
for
believe it
sure.
hasn't changed. Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
yeah. But there are ways to, and I've learned a lot since starting this podcasting, because I've talked to so many people in so many different systems, and I've learned things even with neighboring states. Like, I had a couple guys. We did a seminar here in my county last year. A couple guys traveled up from down in Jersey to the seminar, and I didn't realize that in New Jersey, it's pretty much you're either a firefighter or you're not. There's like no, like, you can't be an exterior firefighter, right?
No, we don't have those.
But yeah, you don't have it, right? And that whole concept to them was like, that's wild. Like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, the way the New York State has set up their training program, it's in steps. Like you can go take a class to be a scene support person. Like you can come in, you can do everything on the outside of the building to support the interior firefighters, but you can't break that ideal H, right? Like you can't put an SCBA on, you can't go into the building. You can grab ladders and bring them to the building, but if it's smoky, you got to set it down and let one of the other guys take it. But you know, for our recruitment, we get a lot of people that can fill other roles, right, within what we do. But we'll never fill that role as a structural firefighter, you know, which is great because it takes some of the load off guys like myself that, you know, have
Yeah, you don't
a
have to do
million other
everything.
things I could be doing. Right, exactly.
I
So
didn't really know.
it's interesting that, you know, that when you learn about different restrictions on different systems, you know, they were like, hey, if we could do this, you know, we could probably have a dozen more people that could help support the people that are doing everything all the time, you know?
That aren't really at that. And again, I didn't really know that. And that may
Yeah.
explain why when I see so many people with beards and I'm like, how does that guy have a beard? Like,
Yeah. Well,
like, how does that work? It depends on who you are.
pet peeve of mine. Trust me, there are plenty with beards that are still putting an SCBA on, you know, the old shave for the fit test, and then 2 weeks later, you know, it's back on their face. There's plenty of that going on around as well, but you know, you pick your battles.
Yeah, but it's also too one of those things where, like, you know, again, looking at that social media post to go back to kind of what we started, I
Yeah.
had no idea that some places, I shouldn't say I had no idea. It's not something that I think about because we don't
Sure.
have them here.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, it's kind of compared to like the military system where, like, look, man, there's people that are SEALs and there's people that are like infantry, but there's
Right.
also a whole host of people supporting them that don't fill that role. You know, I mean, they all
Right.
learn those things, but for some folks, you're just not meant to be in the infantry. You know, you're meant to do
Sure.
this or you're meant to do that. And it's important roles that have to get filled. Where I am, we all fill every role because that's the way it works.
Right. But think about it from like an agency like my perspective, right? We run 225 calls a year, right? The majority of, I mean, we do quite a bit in district. The majority of our fire is mutual aid, right? And the majority of what we do is not fire, right? We don't do EMS, right? The only thing we do EMS is cardiac arrest and respiratory arrest. That's all we do, right? But we do, you know, we're the swift water provider for the county, where we do UAS drone operations for the county and beyond, you know, wildland firefighting, all these things that we do that don't require being a structural firefighter, right?
Yeah, like the drone thing is
right. So I can use all these other people that, you know, if you had to go through a firefighter one program to be a member of the department, right? I don't know what I'd have. You know, I would have the core 20 is probably what I would have.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have the other 20 that fill all those other roles, you know, so
and
it's
that program too. I mean, again, that goes back to the narrowing and volunteerism. EMS fire, the class just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. You know, way back in the day when you and I became EMTs, and I'm not sure what your first EMT program was like, but I think mine was like 60 or 80 hours, maybe.
Yeah, about that.
It was like really hardcore. Like we had a lot of like hardcore. Like one of the kids at work, because you know you're old when you say this, but they're like, "What's an EMTD? Like, why does it say D on some of our labeling? Because we just never changed our labeling."
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I was so young, I couldn't do it when I became an EMT. But when I turned 18, I got to take a 9-hour class about how to use the defibrillator.
Yeah.
And looking back at me, I'm like, 3 hours was taught by a cardiologist. And I really had no idea what that man was saying. I was just nodding my head in agreement and looking at squiggly lines. Like, I think I'm meant for the fire service, not this. Whereas now, you know, my kids know how to use an AED. They're 10 and 13, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
It's so crazy to see how that's gone, but the classes are getting longer. Not necessarily easier, it's just changing. But even for us, we're doing our own training academy. We keep adding weeks to it because we're teaching our recruits more things, which is amazing. But it's like this just keeps getting longer and longer. I went for 4 weeks and then it's like, okay, time to go on the fire engine, go.
My first class in 1990 was firefighting essentials. And that was the basic class. Like,
The
you
name of the
got done
book.
with that. You didn't even go into a live fire, right? Like, it was optional if they did live fire back then. 39 hours.
And you're in.
30,
You're in.
39 hours. And you were good. God
But
bless. Go do
that too,
great things.
when you look at the origins of the volunteer service too, you know, it was like even the career service. Like when my dad got hired, it was like, okay, today's your first day. You're a fireman. Do what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
guy next to you does. You know, the
yeah.
same being a volunteer. Like, all right, tonight you're on the volunteer. Here's a coat, maybe a helmet and some boots, and you're good.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. If this thing runs out of air, disconnect that trunk line and shove it in your coat. You'll be all right.
But that it all goes to that, like, you know, life is changing. You know, the same
Mhm.
reason why you have a platform, the same reason why I have a platform, and we're trying to advance this and keep it going. And you have to remember those traditions, you know, and that's something Jeremy talks about a lot on National Fire Radio.
Mhm.
But you also have to adapt and overcome to what we're dealing with today.
Right.
And just because we did it this way many moons ago, I mean, my department has been on 24-hour shifts now for 18 years.
Mhm.
And some of the things we do, we still do the same way that we did them because we work the 10s and 14s schedule.
Oh, okay.
Like it's been
Yeah.
18 years. There's maybe 20 of us that even work 10s and 14s left, I guess, at this point with mass retirements. And it's
Right, right.
but we do this because we did it that way. We never switched.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's all over, right? I mean, it's tradition is great, but we can't live in tradition. Right? We can honor it 100%, but we can't live there, right? We've got to progress, and we've got to realize that things change, and they're going to continue to change. And this is an ever evolving profession. If you're not picking up new things just about every day, you're probably going to fall behind pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's in life in general. You know,
Hmm.
that's even I'm trying to teach my boys that now. Like you have to keep learning. Like
Hmm.
I have to keep pointing out things. Like I just got a message this morning from someone, and that just the way the person wrote it, I'm like, is this person being a dick to me, or is this person is it just the way they write? Because you know, texting, there's no
Sure.
tone in texting, there's no
No,
inflection in texting
no.
unless you're using all caps, which could just be an accident too. But I'm
Right.
teaching my boys that because they're like, you know, the kings of. Well, actually, my boys are not the kings of text messaging. At least they
Mm.
don't return text messages to their parents like they should.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that
But
100%.
no one taught us how to text, right? We
Right.
just learned it.
Yep.
But I have to teach my boys how to text now so they don't get caught up in something we don't want them to be. So that's
Sure.
that evolution, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, and you have to teach young firefighters how to use social media as firefighters because, you know, you may have them putting their bunker pants on and oiling themselves up for a picture in front of your fire apparatus that you're like,
Yeah. Well, I
you need
mean,
permission to do that, buddy.
that goes back to that whole professionalism thing, and understanding that, once you decide to put on that t-shirt, right, you're representing something much bigger than yourself, right? You're representing the fire service as a whole, you're representing your agency. And we have plenty of soapbox moments. We all have plenty of soapbox moments when we're talking, but we're also honest about it. Like, sure, when I was a 21-year-old kid, did I live in a fire department t-shirt? Absolutely. Everywhere I went, I probably had every color under the rainbow representing every agency,
Yeah.
it didn't matter if I was at a bar, a club, or whatever, I had my fire department t-shirt on, right? Years later, am I still doing that? No, I don't want, like, unless I'm at the firehouse or on a call, or, maybe casually, occasionally, like, if I'm out, I'm it's
I can
you
I
don't
can tell
know.
you the same thing. I was wearing fire department t-shirts all the time, and am I still doing it a decent amount? Probably. But now I was buying them just to I was getting them then just to get them, whereas
Right.
now like, oh, the local next to me is doing a fundraiser and they're selling a t-shirt.
Sure.
I'm gonna buy that t-shirt. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, like those types of things. I put so much more meaning behind it. And then if someone even asks me, even guys I work with, like, "Whoa, why are you wearing that other department's shirt?" Like, "Oh, this was a fundraiser." Like
Yeah,
even
right.
the other day, one of my a guy in my shift, not normally from my house, was in my house acting, and he had a t-shirt on from another local department in our union. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen that one before. And he's like, oh yeah, they were using it to raise money for their veterans fund. And he was a vet. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I wish I
Yeah.
would have known that was out there. I would have just been like, here's my donation,
Yeah.
t-shirt.
Well, because it comes back to that whole social media thing, right? We live in a completely different world. So when you and I were coming up in this, you didn't run the risk of your photo being posted on every platform because you were out doing something stupid in your fire department t-shirt, right? Now that everybody has a camera on their phone, right? Everybody is looking to catch somebody doing something, and the perception, I really have a hard time with the drunken firefighter perception. I really do, right? And I've had it a few times over the years come up where, like the donation after doing something was the case of Budweiser that shows up at the firehouse. And I'm like, I just don't like that perception. It's like, I'd rather you give nothing or a $20 bill if that's what you can do because you felt like you needed to do something. It's just kind of like a knife in the side to think, hey, I'm going to buy you guys a case of beer because firefighters drink beer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with drinking beer. Like, I enjoy it. I know you enjoy drinking a beer every once in a while. So do I. It's all good. It's just the perception I don't like, right? That we're all a bunch of drunken firemen, because
we have an engine company in our college area, and it's happened a couple of times in my career where the guys will help college kids get, whatever it is, whatever the call is, however it is, and these are young kids, college.
Sure. Yeah.
And they'll come to the firehouse and be like, here, we bought you guys a 6-pack of beer. And the guys are like, we can't take this from you. Like, thank you. We don't take anything. We get paid. And you get offered money. We've been
sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've gotten trays of empanadas. We were just actually telling the rookies the other day about COVID times, and somebody was like, well, the food was good because it was like every day we were getting restaurants just when it was support your local emergency responder times. But you'll occasionally get where someone will be like, oh, let me get you guys some beer. And it's the same thing. We're like, no, we're working. We can't. And it's weird that you have these young college kids, 21, if they even are 21 years old, and that's still their perception.
Yeah.
Let me give these guys some beer. And adults, from what I've noticed, will be like, oh, I understand. The college kids will just go run down the side of the firehouse, leave the case of beer, and run away. And now everybody's like, what do we do here?
Yeah. Who's going to pick it up? Right.
Yeah. Like, right. Because, and there's, at least they're smart enough to even realize that, like, who's going to pick it up? Like, and
right.
Not even usually what happens in that circumstance, from what I've understood, the next morning at shift change, someone going home will take it home.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't belong there, but you still have that perception.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, again, going back to professionalism. That's really professional of the guys that work at that house to be like, obviously, one, we can't accept this from you. And then should be concerned that this is some kind of a setup because people are effed up.
Happens all the time. Sure.
And we just can't leave it there forever. So we need to figure something else out, how we're going to deal with this.
This episode's brought to you by the Affordable Standpipe Prop. Let's break it down real quick. Steve and the crew at Affordable Drill Towers is doing it again. They've created this fully custom and fabricated standpipe prop to support the fire service. I'm telling you right now, this is a game-changing piece of training equipment. And I want to hop into it real quick. It is designed with a 4-inch manifold of high-strength galvanized Schedule 10 pipe. The cart and manifold are powder-coated red for a durable finish, meaning it's not just a talking piece. It's not something you tuck away on the shelf. This is a training prop that can be wheeled into the classroom and then brought out onto the training ground. And so let's talk about that. In the classroom, there's nothing better than having a hands-on prop in front of the students, in front of the fire companies that are there to learn about standpipe and FDC connections. Having that prop in the classroom allows for a great instructional lecture. And then from there, take the standpipe theory and translate it to the training grounds. You could wheel the cart out that's on casters, you wheel it out into the parking lot, and that same training prop that you just used hands-on in the classroom can now be used hands-on on the training ground by pumping into it and flowing out of it. It offers such versatility in its approach. It has a 2.5-inch Siamese connection, 7 2.5-inch outlets, 6 of which are standpipe valves, has a water motor gong, sprinkler head with a control valve, and a system pressure gauge. You can also upgrade and put 3 of the most common field-adjustable PRVs. I'm telling you right now, this is a game-changing training prop that needs to be in every fire company or training department across the country. Reach out to Steve and the crew, info@affordabledrilltowers.com. Ask for a demo, ask for information, or check them out on social media and YouTube. There's plenty of content out there that shows you exactly what the affordable standpipe prop can do for you. This episode's brought to you by Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew at Taylor's Tins have been manufacturing aluminum helmet fronts since 2017 with over 200,000 tins in the market. They are a leader in the helmet front space. Custom design, one-offs to department orders, they can turn them around within 24 to 48 hours. Customer service is what they pride themselves on, and they provide nothing but top-shelf product and service to their customers. Check them out at taylorstins.com and check out their full line of product offering. They've always been a very strong supporter since day one with the National Fire Radio podcast and platform, and Taylor and his crew have become dear friends of ours, and we appreciate the support. And at checkout, for a little extra bonus, use coupon code NFR Sent Me. That's NFR Sent Me for a discount on your order. Exclusions do apply. Anyway, check out taylorstins.com for the latest and greatest offerings from Taylor and his crew. And in the words of Taylor, stop burning up leather.
Listen, we have in my fire district, we're not a big community. We have a couple of restaurants that are also bars, right? One is more of a bar. I would call it more of a bar than a restaurant, but they serve food, all the time. And we had an issue years ago with a member, so we had to bring that member in, and it was a younger member, so he had to come in with his parents actually, and the comment was made about the fire trucks, meaning the chief's vehicles, not the actual fire apparatus, being at the bar in the middle of the day, right? Well, I know who it was, right? There's only 3 of us, and we're all smart enough. First of all, we have a 0 tolerance policy, right? So there's that. And then I know that one of the other guys was in there having lunch, right, with his family. Like, you can sit away from the bar at a table and actually have lunch and an iced tea or a water. But again, the perception was that this guy was in there with his district vehicle drinking beer at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and you nicely explain, well, that's not the case. You can buy food there, but again, it's like you said, it only takes one person to snap a picture, right, and write a comment that's just a little bit provocative, and next thing you know, the keyboard warriors are out in full force, and it just, whether it's deserved or not, you still get a black eye.
Well, that goes back to, and you said it there, that response to it too, because you're going to have that person being like, and we had this at one point in my career where it was like, why is the fire chief's vehicle at a bar and at 1 o'clock in the morning? And the answer back was, we were on a call.
Yeah,
a call there. Like,
right.
Emergencies happen at bars type things.
Right.
But it's also that response back. You know what I mean? You could go back at them, and this goes back to the professionalism of social media. You could go back at them with a snarky remark. You could go back at them, none of your business type thing, or you can explain the situation and what was happening. Because those pictures, and I used to say this a lot when I taught extrication, is pictures, and this was pre-video, so I guess it doesn't work as much. It's a snapshot in time.
Sure.
You don't know the whole incident. The same as with the incident you mentioned in the beginning. Like, we only saw part of that incident. We only saw the really bad part. You're not really sure how that all occurred to get to that. But you always have to remember that. And it's our job as professionals, again, to educate people about these situations and to accept the fact that sometimes we're the wrong ones. which is
Oh,
all
100. Yeah, yeah, 100%. We have to be able to admit fault, right? And you've mentioned that that's life, right? I've been wrong plenty of times in life. I've done wrong things and bad things. If you don't learn from them, you don't move on, right? And you just will keep doing the same stupid stuff over and over again. But yeah, absolutely, 100%. If you can't learn from your errors, then what are you doing?
Yeah, it's just you're not doing anything. You're
Right.
just continually making errors. And
Right, right, right.
most of those people eventually fail, and those errors put them in places that you don't want to be in life.
Sure, sure. And it's one of the things that I've been talking about. It seems like a lot lately, and I don't know why it's been coming up in a series of things I've been doing, but it's the being accidentally successful as firefighters, right? Where we get the job done and we come back to the station and we might even give a few pats on the backs and attaboys. But when you leave and you're like having that reflection time by yourself, you're like, holy crap, that really could have gone sour really bad in a really bad way, and look, it's great to do good things, but if we're doing them accidentally, right? Eventually eventually we're probably going to get ourselves in trouble,
I
right?
have
And I
never.
think it's because I've been teaching a lot of like special ops type stuff lately, where especially in the in the fire services
And anyway,
general, right? We're called to everything, right? I mean, look, you've had some bizarre water incidents down in your area, water flowing through your station, right down your main street, right? If somebody calls you to an emergency and you feel like you can make a difference, whether you're trained or not, you're probably going to take a chance at making that difference, right? Is it right or wrong? I don't know. That's for us to debate later, right? But the bottom line is, all too often, because we're called to these incidents and we feel that duty to act, we're accidentally successful getting the job done. But the problem is we don't come back and realize that that's what happened, and realize that, hey, you know what? We pulled this off, but this could have gone south. And we really need to look at this and see how we can be better prepared for the next time.
109,000%. Like, I agree with
Yeah.
you, because you can't do anything in life 100%
Sure.
correct. My boys and I, we just finished last night watching the Netflix things, Quarterbacks.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Really good documentary.
Yeah.
And you watch these high level athletes, and I think more Patrick Mahomes in this. I mean, granted, he did win the Super Bowl, so he was the bigger focus. But you
Sure.
see this young man who is just at the top level that you can be at, but
Yeah.
yet taking a lot of responsibility on himself. That's on me, and talking about that. And who knows? It could have just been for the cameras, but I highly doubt it, because it's in the middle of games that they're catching
Sure.
these clips the way they clipped it, and they could have also clipped it to make him look like a tool. I'm sure if they wanted to.
Sure. Yeah.
It's that learning from it. And
Yeah.
again, I like that you use the term accidentally successful, because I feel like every incident I've ever been on, we've been accidentally successful. No one does it by the letter of the law every time,
Sure.
but it's
Sure.
our ability to self-reflect afterwards and be like, man, I messed that up. And that goes for not just emergency scenes, but parenting,
Yeah.
driving, mowing my lawn, like whatever you want to say.
Right. Yeah,
Podcast.
I think it's more about the reflection. I mean, look, there's certain things that we do every day or more often that we're pretty good at, right? But then there's these other things that we just kind of get thrown in the mix. And the good thing about firefighters is, right, we're all pretty good at figuring it out, right? Like we're good at
For sure.
figuring it out in one way or another. But occasionally we figure it out, and when you look back at it, you're like, wow, that had a 50-50 shot, man. Like that could, like, yeah, good job, attaboy brothers. But you know what? That was like, that
You're
was
right there.
on
We were
that
on
was
the line.
on the line of, it could have gone in another direction,
So never
where
do
somebody
that
could have
again.
gotten seriously hurt or worse. And I think it's about that reflection that's important, coming back, and even if it's a 10-minute tailboard talk, to just say, hey, look, do you guys realize what just happened? Right? Because I know we're all hyped up right now, we're feeling good about ourselves, but do you really realize like what just happened?
And it's not to
That's
pass
it.
blame, when you're doing that. I just did it with that water incident we had.
Yeah.
I've never been in charge in one. I've been to a few. They've never gone the way anyway. I feel any water incident I have been in has never gone anywhere near the way we wanted
Right.
it to.
Sure.
And we needed to learn from it. And we did a quick little kitchen talk with the guys that were there. And
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm glad you didn't do this. I'm glad we did this. I wish we could have done this. And let's try to make it better for the next time.
Sure. Sure.
Because
And
when
look, some people don't know, right? We only know what we know, right? I remember years ago, right, before I knew anything about any of this water stuff that I've gotten myself involved in over the years, and I remember a flooding incident where a local trooper tied a rope around his waist and jumped out into this water and swam across to try to grab somebody and bring him back. And he ended up making, and I was like, whoa, look at this guy. What a hero,
Mitch Buchanan.
Yeah. And, now, I look back at that and I really I was awestruck. I was like, wow, look at this guy. Like he's doing it, Now, all these years later, I'm like, boy, that guy could have killed himself, like in so many ways, but back then, nobody really knew. Like everybody was like, just adapt and overcome. Like this is what works. Hey, I know if I'm on a rope, you're not going to find me in the next town over, so let's tie this rope.
Hopefully somebody was holding on to the other end of the rope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, we only know what we know, but sometimes that can be a challenge too.
But that also too goes back to the word professional again. We're like, in my world we use it like it's my profession, and this is my profession. And I think I've talked about this a lot too in just my years of this, because people ask me about my volunteer days and what changed when I got hired. And one of those big things, and I've said this before, is no matter what, I am a New Brunswick firefighter. First and not first and foremost, but I'm always a New Brunswick firefighter, right?
Sure.
But for my 24 hours on duty, being a New Brunswick firefighter is my priority.
Sure.
That's when I have to worry about it. When I leave, when I give my handover to who's ever relieving me, for the next 72 hours, there's somebody else there that's that New Brunswick firefighter.
Yeah.
In the volunteer world, it gets a little wonkier because you are always a volunteer firefighter with a pager on you. And you can't get away from that. I like my days off. Like right now, I should be working today, but I have a vacation day because my son's play, and I have a little beard going. If I got called into work, this would probably just suffice for a quick call in.
Sure.
But I'd have to go in and shave, right? Because it's not my life. Where if I was a structural volunteer, I would feel like every other day, I'm shaving just for that basics,
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it can be hard to enforce in the volunteer world, and different places handle it different ways. My agency, the guys pretty much know, if you're like beyond like a shadow, and you show up and we have a fire and you didn't have the opportunity to shave, well, sorry, you're sitting this one out. Like you're gonna have
the
to
worst
do
shave ever. Like I gotta go quick.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do other things, But and I get that, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem in the volunteer world as well, because look, volunteers need time off too. And I think sometimes volunteers forget that. Like it's okay if you're having a bad day to not run out when the pager goes off, right? It's okay if you're just not feeling it, or you need to commit more time to your kids and your family because, we were busy the day before or whatever, that like, we'll get by, right? It's okay. I think a lot of us put so much into it that we sometimes forget that it's all right to turn the pager off and just like have a day off. Yeah, just not be there. Yeah, absolutely.
I think traditionally too, that was definitely something that didn't happen at all.
Sure.
And when you're looking at, like you had said before about traditions, people are like, oh, well, that guy did it. He's the top 10 responder every year for the past 20 years.
Sure. Yeah.
You're like, what's his life really like? Because we're learning so much more too about off the job life, that
Yes.
your mental health, your physical health, your medical health, beyond physical appearances, but what's going on inside of your body, that's something that we all have to be looking at. And
Yeah.
taking that time off, like almost, and I'll probably get panned if a lot of people listen to this, but it's almost like volunteer departments need to be like, okay, this is your 2 week vacation. Okay, this
Yeah.
is your 2 weeks of not responding, even though the numbers aren't there to physically do that. And I understand,
Sure.
but you want to give your people that rest, because it's just like now in the career service. Again, EMS fire, when I started, you see some really bad stuff. Have a good
Mhm.
day. Your shift's going on tomorrow. Your shift's continuing. Whereas now we're learning so much more about, post incident stress for not just humongous incidents, but everything, to
Sure.
debrief, to give people a time off. You can't get that in that world.
No, no, absolutely not. I mean, the whole bucket theory, I've heard a few people use that as the analogy to the things that we see, right? Everybody's bucket's different, right? One person's bucket might be the size of this cup, another person's might be a 55-gallon drum, but at some point in their career, right? And they don't know when it's going to come. A lot of times that bucket's going to overflow, right? And you'll have taken on more than you can handle. And, and that can be a challenge, right? That can definitely be a challenge for what we do.
And that's on top of the bucket of your personal life, your
Yes.
marriage, your kids, your
100%.
house, your family, I mean, when I lost my mom in the beginning of the year and towards the
Hmm.
end of last year, that was my bucket. And it's crazy because actually today is my Facebook memory when we brought her home from the hospital on hospice care.
Yeah.
And for those 5 months, that was a huge part of my life. You know what
Oh,
I mean? Like
absolutely.
taking care of mom. And
Hmm.
you see people that do this and they don't even think of the aspect of how it can affect them, whether they're volunteering or at the job. Like I
Oh,
was,
yeah.
my days at work were kind of like not my rest day, but it was like my mind was turned off, not to that, but to that, because I had to be at work, but it was still filling my bucket.
Oh, 100%. And just family life and how that interacts mentally, right, with the job, right? You have kids, I have kids, right? When I first started out and I was single, or and didn't have any kids, not that child incidents didn't bother me, but they bother everybody, right? Nobody wants to see a child get injured or hurt,
Yeah.
or God forbid worse. But when you have your own and they're young, or then they start driving and they become teenagers, it's different, right? You go to a call involving kids, your own children's age, right? It's different, right? You go to a medical call to a family who has a relative on hospice when you've dealt with a family member of your own being on hospice. It's different, right? There's, if it's not different, I don't know. You're fucked up. But it's
No, you're right, 100%. We,
it,
we we just had an EMS walk-in. I was working overtime, and I didn't really deal with it at all. But the next day, it was my shift, and
mhm,
the gentleman's son came in, and he was just trying to figure out a little bit what happened because his dad had dementia, which my mom had, and
mhm.
we started talking, and like, dude, it was like brought me right back to that moment of
Yeah,
things that I forgot happened with my mom,
sure.
just because of so much other stuff. But it's just one more thing in that bucket that you have to be ready to kind of deal with,
Yeah.
or have your resources to deal with, which I know again you talk a lot about in your programs.
Yeah, 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 and and I think I think we'd be missing a big point if we didn't talk about, we talk about the professionalism. We all preach the brotherhood, right? Brotherhood. Yeah. But knowing our people and knowing what they're dealing with and knowing what they're going through. And I'm not saying you have to be everybody's therapist, right? But we all know one another well enough, right? We if the guys and girls in your station, I know the guys and girls in my station, right? Like I know when they're off, right? I know if that top responder all of a sudden stops coming around for a few days. Like a light bulb should go off in my head that something's going on, right? And I think a lot of times, and thankfully there's a lot of programs out there that's addressing this now. A lot of times we miss the mark when it comes to starting that conversation with the people that we're closest to, just saying, hey man, are you okay? Is something going on? Or taking them aside, or giving them a phone call, not a text message, and saying, hey, listen, I don't mean to pry, but you're different these days. You seem like you got something on your mind. Are you okay? Do you need help? Whatever. That's a huge part of all of this, right? And what we do every day.
And even how you approach that, the biggest part of that is starting the conversation, like you said. And it's not an easy thing to start at all.
No.
And I've definitely done it a few times. And for me, I feel like a strategy that always works is like, look, man, I don't know, maybe this is me, maybe I'm off, but is everything okay with you? Like, I've noticed you're not, making your eggs every shift that you come in,
Right.
I've noticed you, because they also notice that you've noticed them doing something so much that they've stopped. Or I've noticed all of a sudden, like, your uniform is not what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, it'll change. And hey, this could just be me. And I found so much success with that, with whatever the situation can be. And sometimes to my own, like, holy shit, I just opened not a can of worms, but the 55-gallon drum of worms.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Which is
sure.
a fear to ever want to do. But again, it's that being there for each other. And I've had people say it to me, where it's like, dude, you're not the dude that, or like, even I'll get this one a lot, and sure you can understand why, but people will be like, hey, you still working out? Like, you haven't posted a workout clip in like a week. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting it in. I just didn't put the camera on because I'm the worst at that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Starting the conversation is difficult. I think a lot of people use the excuse that well, it's none of my business, or I didn't know what to say, right? And I get it. It's hard, right? But unfortunately, some people really hide problems really, really well. And if somebody doesn't start that conversation, right, it can lead to really, really bad things, And look, I realized this personally, a year ago, when I went through a separation, right? And look, I know I was acting differently. I was doing my best to, like, be normal Brian, and just, be happy and do my thing at the firehouse and not let anybody see that I was, going through some struggles. But I know I wasn't myself, and I know, small town, everybody knows everything, but it really opened my eyes to the fact that people are really afraid to start those difficult conversations, right? And here I'm thinking, thankfully what I'm going through, I know I'll get through on my own, right? And look, I seeked out therapy and other things to help me deal with it. But it really amazed me that some of the people that I have been closest with, right, in emergency services, that I knew what was going on, didn't say a word. Or when they finally did say a word, it was like 6 months later, and they're like, hey man, like, I knew you were going I knew you were going through some stuff, but I just didn't really know how to start the conversation, and look, had that been a major, like, well, it was a major change, but you know what I mean? Like, had I been somebody that was, like, struggled with, like, real depression or real anxiety or real, and taking that down a darker road, God, I would really hope that somebody would have been there to say something. You know what I mean?
It's so hard because, again, like, and I see both sides of the story, right? And I think
Sure, I do too,
like,
100%.
you're like, this is so, but it's just these conversations. It's so easy for me and you to talk about it now until we're the ones kind of involved in it.
But you and I know have both, because I know, the type of person that you are, and you and I know have both been on the sides of the starting the awkward conversation, and usually the response is, wow, I really, whether they want to take a deeper dive with you or not, right? More often the response is somebody is just really genuinely happy that somebody actually noticed and gave a crap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, for sure. And you never have to maybe even go that far. And
Right.
sometimes it even happens in mid conversation. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, because again, we can go back to our relationship where, listen, we're not like texting besties every day and in each other's lives and sending
Right.
memes and blah, 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 all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But when you were to say to me, like, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm having a separation, or I think at one point I had said to you something like that I had going on with someone or a friend, we were right there for each other. You know what I mean? And it's that also end of reaching out and just being there and listening or
Right.
whatever it is. Like, hey, I'm always here for you. That could be just what someone needs to hear. You know,
Right.
so
And more often than not, when you're dealing with this, you know, when you're doing this kind of stuff, you got to stay away from the texting, right? Like you
no
gotta,
tone. We said it before. There's no tone or
yeah, there's no tone in a text. And it's like if you were to text me and say, hey man, you seem a little off, everything okay? It's really easy for me to be like, all good. Yep. You know, but if you picked up the phone and called me and been like, hey Brian, what's going on, man? You know, or start talking, be like, hey, listen, you know, I just want to check in on you. Is everything okay? Like, yeah, look, I could be, you know, really good at faking it, you know, or, you know, so a lot of times, and I know with myself, with the people that I've reached out to over the years for whatever the reason, right? Could be they have nothing going on at all. They're just taking a break, like you and I were talking about before, you know. But I call them up and say, hey, I haven't seen you at the station in like 2 weeks. Is everything okay? You know, they'll go into what they've been doing on the phone versus in a
good, bad, or
text.
indifferent. Yeah.
Right, exactly. They'll go into it on the phone, but on a text, they're just like, yeah, I'm good. Oh, okay. So then you're sitting on the other side. You're like, well, are they really good or are they not good? Like, do I need to follow up on this? You know what I mean?
That's like when you get the I know you've had to have this. You're seeing the 3 dots, you're in a text message, and you're seeing the 3 dots, and you're seeing the 3 dots, and then all of a sudden the phone just rings. And that person is
yeah. I thought you were gonna go somewhere else.
Even worse, 3 dots just stay forever.
No, even worse than that is like you see the 3 dots, you look away, you come back, you see the 3 dots, and then you never get a message. And you're like, what the hell? Like,
oh, I just called. That's when I call. That's when I'm like, what the fuck, man? There's 3 dots on my phone. This can't stay.
Yeah, right. Were you thinking about replying and then you decided just not to? Like, what the hell's going on? You know?
My one buddy, actually, I love him to death. I had that going on and I just called him. So I'm like, the 3 dots are here forever. And he's like, keep writing things and erasing them. And I'm like, then just say it to me and we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, tell me what's up. But that's, again, part of this evolution in society, right?
Sure.
Where, like, listen, I'm a big texter. I'm not going to lie. We text more than we talk, you and I.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
But there's that level of like, nope, I'm giving him a call now. This is something where like we got to talk, or,
right.
You know, I know you've gone through some stuff with a line of duty death, and you and I were on the phone a lot. That time. And I still actually owe you a podcast episode now that I remember that.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
It's like the only time I've been too sick to do something was you needed me to help you.
Yeah.
I still feel bad. But anyway.
Yeah, we had a bad couple month run. One, you know, we did have one line of duty and we were very, very close to potentially having 2 more in the same couple month run. And you know, look, it's one of those things that we always talk about. You know, unfortunately, we've been to plenty of line of duty death funerals. But when it happens right in front of you, literally you're standing there and somebody just goes down, you know, it changes you forever. There's no doubt it changes you
100%.
forever. It changes your perspective. It changes the conversations that maybe you were afraid to have before that you're not afraid to have anymore. You know, especially in my world, because there are lots of volunteer agencies that will take anybody to do this. Literally anybody, you know, if they can pass the physical, which if it's not much of a physical, you know, if they can pass the physical, go on and do great things, you know.
You need bodies, like
right. And you know, that really wasn't the case with this one here, but you know, it's just you know, we look, I've been teaching for a long time. I've been doing Courage to Be Safe and some of these other national programs for a long time, you know, talking about cardiac related incidents. And never in a million years did I think that it would happen right in front of me, and it definitely, it changes you for sure.
It's not something you think about, and
No,
it's not something anybody thinks about, you know what I mean?
no,
Even doing
no.
bystander CPR. I did bystander CPR and was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I had done CPR, I don't even know how many times.
yeah,
And I watched this dude in a competition, in a CrossFit competition, drop right in, literally in front of me.
yeah,
And afterwards, I was so amped up, I couldn't even think. Like,
yeah.
I had
Oh
to
yeah,
go outside and I'm like, oh my God, we just did that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
meanwhile, the people are working out, like literally working out next to us because they're in a competition and we're reviving this guy and he came
yeah.
back.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like he
yeah,
walked out of the
totally.
hospital 2, 3 days later. But like it's this thought processes of just thought processes, but just processing things
Hmm.
that you have to learn and evolve in how we process them.
Yeah,
And evolve, I think the evolution is key, and that's what I think is great about what you're doing with the professional brotherhood. Is you're talking about this evolution, that it's not the way it was.
sure.
A case of beer after a fire. I mean, even career volunteer, nothing. There was definitely lots of alcohol involved in the fire service in the
Oh
past.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely, 100%. And lots of alcohol involved when I first got involved in the fire service. I watched I watched the evolution of the bar in the firehouse in my first department. It was there. It was a staple there when I first joined, and you had your 4 o'clock club of guys that would come in every day and throw back beers, and if the tones dropped, would walk right outside the door and jump right on those apparatus and out they'd go. Then the bar went away, and I remember them saying, "Oh, this is going to be the death of the volunteer firehouse here." Nothing
still here.
changed.
Still
Still
here.
there. Yeah, it's still there. They're still volunteering.
There's
But
always the doom and gloom.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
My last
absolutely.
guest said it last week, Aaron, like the Chicken Little, the sky is falling. The sky has been falling forever, and it's still
Yeah,
gonna keep falling on us.
yeah,
Everything.
absolutely.
I think they thought bunker pants were going to be the end of the fire service, or
Yeah.
not being able to ride on the tailboard was going to be the
No,
end of the fire
no
service.
Mex hoods. I mean, look, we all heard the same. Like I'm sure you heard the same, same speeches. Hey, you kids are never going to know when to turn around because you won't feel your ears burning. I'm like, well, if my ears are burning, I don't want to be in there to begin with.
And those guys were very wrong, because I've definitely felt my ears and the back of my neck burning with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Nomex hood on, where I'm
yeah,
like, it's
yeah,
time to
absolutely.
go,
Yeah,
man.
for sure.
And
Yeah,
especially too, like you can't see the fire. You know what I mean? And you're like, God,
right.
why am I burning up right now? This is so not what it felt like
Yeah, yeah,
anywhere else.
absolutely. Hundred
Where you
percent.
have that piece fall on you and you're like, what's back here? Let me move this. Yeah, I don't want to get burned. I'm happy I have this Nomex hood.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Me too.
Dude,
So
we can sit here and talk about this evolution, because I really think that's what now this podcast has become. Like, it's just evolution. We've been talking
yeah,
about just evolving as people, as firefighters, as people, as volunteer career, whatever you want to say it. But it's just that constant evolution. And I love that we've been able to talk about this. And I'm hoping some folks took some stuff away from it.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, look, I think you can take something away from everything as long as you have an open mind. I think that's the biggest issue I think we have in the fire service with some people, right? Is they're afraid to open their mind to, hey, like what we said before. I mean, there's good people and bad people in every aspects of life and
Yeah.
every job. It doesn't matter what you do, right? But we can all learn from the good people, regardless of what side of the fence they sit on.
Yeah, it's
But
the Mr. Rogers line. Look
yeah,
for the helpers. Look for
yeah,
the people out there helping, and that's what you want. And they
yep,
don't have to be helping on a big red fire truck. They could be helping by bringing in their neighbor's trash can,
sure, yeah,
or shoveling their snow or anything like that. So that
absolutely.
is awesome, dude. Well, we're at that 1 hour mark. I like to
All
keep
right.
these around that 1 hour mark, but we do have the size up 10. You would think I'd have these memorized by now, because I think it's like the 10th time I've done this, but I don't. It's just I kind of know the way it goes,
You're
and
saving that part of your memory for something
yeah,
bigger.
my
That's
core
all.
memory for
Yes.
something else. I'm actually wondering too. I'm like, should I change these? And I'm like, I don't know. I said I was going to do this for a while, so I want to keep going with it. But it's always fun. It's supposed to go quick. It never does. So
Yeah.
let's see what you got here.
All right. Let's see what happens.
Beach or mountains?
God, that's a tough one. Um, I got to go with one, huh?
You
I'm
don't
gonna.
know. I let my guest last week go with both, but you know,
Yeah.
pick a
I would
compound.
probably. I'd probably be a 50-50 split guy because look,
Yeah,
I'm a big skier, ski patrol, all that fun stuff. But I love the beach, you know. So I never see myself retiring to a like I'm not going to Florida. I can tell you that right now. You know, like
so you're going seasonal here. It's for
I'm
beach or mountains.
seasonal.
You're a
I'm
seasonal
seasonal. There you go. Seasonal. I'm going seasonal.
answer.
I'm not saying the seasonal will be New York. It might be nicer. Not, no, we have nice mountains. It might be bigger mountains, but yeah,
Higher
seasonal.
elevated mountain. Seasonal. Okay.
Seasonal.
Number
Yep.
one, seasonal. That's a new
Yep.
answer for that.
All right.
Night out or night in?
Night in.
A good book or a good movie?
Good movie.
Cross country road trip. Who's your co-pilot?
My girlfriend.
Nice.
Yeah,
Do you make your bed every day?
I do. I do.
Nice.
Because I read the book about making your bed, and it really, if you've never read that book, right, it really does reflect on a lot of aspects of life. So yes, I do. Yeah.
You are the first person to point out that I basically stole that line from someone else to ask that question. So
Yeah.
so I was going with it being my idea the whole time, and then
Oh, okay.
you ruined it for all
Sorry.
the listeners.
Sorry. You're gonna have to add some credits to the end of the show notes now.
Way to go, friend. $1 million right now from the National Fire Radio Bank of, or go back to 18 years old with a redo.
I'll take the money now.
Taking the money, I like it.
Yeah, I'll
It's
take
not
the money.
coming. We don't have that.
Yeah, well,
You know the back end of running a podcast. We don't.
yeah,
have
no, I do.
highway or back roads.
Back roads.
I figured that one.
Mm.
Bucket list place to visit.
Ooh, bucket list place to visit. Well, sticking with your my seasonal theme here, all right, I'm gonna have two. I am gonna say Hawaii on the warm end of things,
Okay.
and I am gonna say the Alps on the mountainous end of things.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. I'm getting to the Alps someday. I've been to Hawaii a couple times. It's worth
Yeah.
the trip, but the
Yeah.
Alps is on that list for sure.
Yeah.
All right. This is the most challenging one for most people. So it's going to be either football or football.
Football.
Nice. Straight
Yeah.
out football.
Straight
All
up
America.
football. Yeah.
All right. Last one here. The best advice you could give to your younger self.
Best advice I could give to my younger self. I think probably the biggest thing that I feel I have learned over the last 10 years, had I known it 40 years ago, was that whole open mind aspect, right? Just keep an open mind, be a sponge, absorb as much as you can, realize that you, regardless of what you think you absolutely never know it all, right? And chill with the attitude, right? Because
Such a good lesson.
because I think we've all been there. I say it a lot because I've been fortunate enough to go through the Chiefs ranks a couple of times, and I tell guys all the time, they're like, "Oh God, dude, you're so good at this, you're so good at that." I said, "Listen, man," I said, "if you knew me 15 years ago when I wore this white hat the first time, like I was a much different person. Like I thought I knew it all. I kind of carried myself like I thought I knew it all. I didn't know shit, right? It's evolution. You just got to keep learning."
And you still don't know shit, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I love the chill with the attitude line because I think about it like I can still do that today. Like everybody can do that all the time, right? But I remember, Finn was a little guy in his car seat behind me, and I don't know, somebody cut me off or someone did something, and I was like just ready to go off like I would in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Like somehow in my whether I was going to flip the dude the bird and start screaming or rolling down the window, I happened to glance in the rear view and see him just kind of staring back at me with his little eyes.
Right.
Like he was bigger, enough to whatever.
Realize what was going on.
Yeah, realize what was going on. Yeah. And I was like, mother. And then I really thought about that and was like, damn, I gotta chill with this. Because this little guy is learning and sponging, like you said. He is
Sure.
that sponge.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, he's 13, 3 years he'll be driving. And I'm like, Finn, look at this jerk off driving. Like, this is how you don't want to drive. I'm trying to take that as a teaching moment for him.
Yeah.
But we could all
look, we all have our moments. I'm not saying that, none of us are perfect. I'm definitely not perfect now, but like you have those. I feel like as you age, you definitely, well, most people I feel gain more self-control, right? Sometimes you put a little bit more thought into that reaction or into what you're gonna, into what that the first thing off your tongue might be, like you're like, no, roll that back. So yeah,
perfect way to end this one.
I like it. It's good time.
Thank you enough, my friend Brian Solar.
You got it.
I'm getting there. I'm almost there because my brain is telling me to say solar. And it's
I know. It's tough.
It's so hard. But brother, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on the Size Up here with me. It's been a great time, and we're definitely gonna have to do this again, or I'm gonna have to jump over on the Professional Brotherhood, or we'll figure some stuff.
We'll figure it out.
Awesome, man. But as always, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors each week. We really can't do this without you. We really can't do it without the listeners. And I am going to get some more posts about the listeners soon because I owe you guys a little bit of gratitude, as we talked about on episode 28 with Aaron. But you guys are keeping this thing rolling. And so for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this has been Pip, and we will catch you next time.